Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having an amazing day. We're taking another look here at Bitcoin, seeing what's going on. We redrew out some Fibonacci retracement levels here, kind of get us some updated data. And then also we're going to take a look at some back-end stuff, of course, with high block capital and effectively just understand, best practice, big picture. So if you are new to the channel, keep in mind I love to teach people trade. Hope you can learn something today. So what we want to look at first and foremost is a few things. First of all, we got a MACD divergence here on the horizon. Hasn't happened yet, but it will basically indicate that we have a shift momentum potentially to the downside. So there is a strong chance we're going to see that 29,000 range if we, of course, see that diverge, if you will. Okay. Now, it should happen unless we see a surge in price action to the upside. So I think the overall sense right now is that the price should be pulling back to retest the 29.25 range, just as a rough estimate. Again, those are just numbers I'm pulling out from previous supports and resistances that I know of, but at this point right now, we can see on Fibonacci we got 28.8 and just say 29.8 as the two most recent relevant levels that we could see retested. So I think 29.9 is more likely initially, and then obviously we'll reevaluate and see if 28.8 could be hit, but generally speaking, we got that little range there that should be retested as a likelihood, again, just based on one thing so far. We're going to look at a lot more, of course, but that's just kind of the overall sense here that we overextend ourselves, hit that level, and a pullback would make a lot more sense. Okay. Once again, we'll see what happens here soon. Again, if you are new to the channel, make sure you take advantage of this exclusive offer here. $50 bonus, of course, for just transferring over $50 to your BingX account. And of course, you just trade 30,000 in USDT, and you get a $100 bonus there too. So best exchange, in my opinion, right now, because all the whole VPN and KYC requirements. 3 major exchanges just got hit really hard, so our US members are trying to find some opportunities. This is the best one for you. So again, be sure to check that out. Awesome stuff. Thank you, BingX, for being able to help out our community members and our subscribers alike. Thank you. So take a look here at Bitcoin. What we want to do is look first at the back end stuff, kind of see what's going on. And then we'll talk a little bit more about big picture on the charts. We're also going to look at the weekly open and closes and kind of see roughly where that looks like. It is looking that there's some nice resistance ranges really close to where the price actions is at right now. But what we can see here so far, a lot of asking pressure here, of course, so a lot more selling. It happens when you have overextended price action, so it's very common for us to be like that. Nothing to really read into, it just really implies that we have more people trying to sell than they are trying to buy right now. And it makes sense because most of these positions in the 25,000 range are in profit, so it's just kind of the natural way of things. We've got more retail active than whales, which is a good sign. Basically implies that we're holding this level here, which is a good sign. We can see more long positions being closed in the last 48 hours than opened. Obviously, that makes sense. The price is coming down. Nothing really read into there at this point. Doesn't mean you want to short your shirt off because of it, but it does imply the general bias right now is down, then up, right? Because again, we got rejected off that resistance there, the 1 week high of 31,400, I think it was. And again, good place to short from. Unfortunately, I was sleeping at that time, but that's just kind of the way it works, right? You can't stay up all day long. Some of the best traders are those who never get any sleep. But again, I personally like to get sleep so I can trade better. It's kind of a funny little thing, right? Either way, just something to kind of think about there. Take a look here at some open interest. Let's see what's going on with our longs here. We got longs open at 30,500. So these early longs are back in the green when the price action just leveled itself out. And let's see here where we're at. We probably got some similar shorts at level 2. So it tells you that 30,500 is a point of contention. I'll show you on the charts why that is, because that is a previous week open and close right in that range. And that tells us a lot that there's more buying pressure in that level within the last week's worth of trading. Okay, and that's an important thing to recognize. We've also got some late shorts here underwater. They thought they was going to go lower, so 30,200 is essentially a place in which we saw a lot of entries for shorts. Okay, now again, I can totally see why, because it looked like it was going to break to the downside, but there's a lot of overextension too, and let's look at that here in a minute. Just to touch on, first of all, the daily. Let's quickly note here, once again, MACD divergence on the horizon. Very soon that could happen, and if it does, not saying we're just going to see the price drop like a rock, but there's a great chance we're going to see a retest this lower range, 28 to 29,000. We also have consideration here if we take a look at the RSI. We've got a strong stochastic push to the downside. So ideally that's going to bounce off that level and come up a little bit higher, but we will definitely see what happens with that. Okay, so again, overall, we got this obvious momentous push to the downside. We're still over 50 on the RSI. Keep in mind that will be a potential support level for us eventually. For right now, we're far enough away, it doesn't matter too much. But again, it gives us the consideration the price is going to drop. Another thing to recognize too is that we got rejected pretty hard off of 70 on the RSI here. That was right there, almost exactly at 31,500. Okay, That's been a point of contention for some time. So 31.5 is a key level resistance we got to break through in order to have any kind of push to the upside. For now, we can expect it to continue to work as a resistance. But we are starting to see this ascending type of wedge pattern here, and a lot of times those do break to the upside because it's coming from the downside, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a rejection first. That would make a lot more sense considering where we're at and that we've had difficulty passing that level. Once again, a lot of things here are kind of pointing down, but keep this in mind. It's not all doom and gloom, right? We got our moving averages averaging themselves out upwards. We got the trend setter here, the 20-day SMA working itself up at 29.5. So we should see soon what happens with that, if that will actually hold the price action or if the price will break below it. Once it breaks below, we can expect the 50 to be a potential retest, as it's very common for the price to break through the 20 and then retest the 50 for a bounce. That's what I'm expecting to happen. So again, the 50 is going to take its time up here, and as the price continues to progress, if it does, we'll see that kind of meet somewhere in the 28 to 29,000 range. So again, I still feel like 28 to 29,000 will hold as a support level, because that's, again, the most recent high. Most recent highs work as most recent lows as far as bouncing points are concerned. That's why you always put your stop loss just below the previous high, because then you can ensure that you're less likely to get wiped out at that level because the price should bounce from there. Okay, again, just some things to think about. Future reference, cool stuff there. All right, let's take a quick look at the 4 hour and quickly note here our previous week high open. Basically high open, low close. We can see here right there at the close and open for last week, we had somewhat of a doji candle for last week. You can see 30,000 to 400, 30,600. Roughly that $100 to $200 range right here is where the price action averages itself out the most. So that's kind of the average true range for the last week, telling us that the price should reject out at that level, considering that was a point in which it shouldn't have passed below. So we can kind of see this here. There's a good chance we're going to get a rejection at that level. Again, that's just my speculation, but again, that is typically what will happen in those scenarios, because again, that's kind of like when you look at like the volume profile, for example, we see a lot of volume in this range. We can kind of just look here. Once you get below that level, there's a good chance the price is going to continue lower because of it. Okay, so I would hold off on any long positions just yet. It seems like it's ideal, but once again, this low here, if you can see this low is lower than this most recent low. So we're technically making lower lows now, if you consider the overall trend here so far. However, this is conversely, if you take a look at this here, we can see an obvious overextension. We just hit a 9 on TD sequential, okay? So it makes sense for the price to consolidate sideways and then reject off this resistance at 30,600 and continue lower. So to me, if I'm going to short, I'd be looking at an entry right now between now and 30,600. Again, if is a key word here. You never want to truly buy the dip, which looks like it kind of is a dip for the moment. But once again, we're coming lower than the previous low, and that concerns me. That tells me that we're probably likely to continue to go lower. While it may not happen right now, we should expect the price to probably retest that 30,000 range, at least initially. Okay, because again, we're just range bound between 30,000 and 31.5 right now at this point. That's pretty much just the extent of it. We had this one weird candle wick at 29.5, but for the most part, 29,900 is essentially that level. So if you're going to short, consider taking profits at 29.9, 30,000. That may be appropriate for you. All right, so that's kind of what we're looking at there in that sense, in the overall here on the 4 hour. We want to take a quick peek though, of course. Stochastic is obviously overextended to the downside. It's never a great sign. I don't love shorting into that. You can also see that MACD is diverging, but we're starting to plateau. So we are losing that momentum to the downside. So it would be advantageous if you're considering a short to maybe wait a little bit longer for a better entry, considering the fact that the price action will probably continue to go sideways for another day or two before that happens. Keep in mind, we do have some Fed meetings, Fed minutes, if I recall correctly, today here in roughly 40 minutes. So check the charts. It could get a little volatile here in a little bit. It might be best to wait that out and kind of see what's going on first. But again, the key takeaway here is that we have mostly bearish signals, right? We've got the 4 hour giving us a firm indication we're below 50 in the RSI, which we truly haven't seen in, roughly about 5 trading days. So it's been a little while since we've seen that, and this bullish momentum is kind of coming to an end. So it would make sense for us to kind of just bounce up and down before we get back up above. Getting, breaking right straight through that support and resistance zone at 30,500 doesn't make a ton of sense right now. All right, that's kind of where we're at there for Bitcoin on the 4 hour. To summarize here on the hourly, let's go ahead and see what's going on. Obvious overextension here as well. We can see 2 9s on TD sequential, telling us that there's a great chance the price should rally back up to at least this level. It could very well pass it, don't get me wrong. The trading day isn't over, and just because a weekly open and close is in that same range doesn't imply it's going to just stop right there. But with this being a previous resistance level, turn support, turned resistance, when it continues to flip sides like that, there's a good chance we're going to see the price turn itself around. Again, I don't think it's going to happen right away. We're going to have this little rally where the price action tries to recover based on it being overextended 2 trading cycles in a row. Okay, so again, that's never great. So this is a case in point where you got a lot of conflicting information. It's oftentimes best to wait for confirmation. And to me, confirming factors would be a close below 30,600, 30,700 today to basically stay below this level here. And this 30,700 was a previous resistance zone based on a 1-day candlestick closing below that level multiple times. Granted, we closed above that for a day and then down below again, so it was somewhat, it's less relevant now, but it is important to note that that's roughly where our average true range lies, is that 30,600 is a close approximate right there. So my speculation is that the price will come up here and to continue a little bit lower right at that 30,006, 30,007. It seems to make sense that we're gravitating towards that. But right now, we got this little rally. It's going to happen. It's natural because we've been overextended for 2 trading days in a row to the downside. Okay, so a natural dead cat would make perfect sense. Okay, just keep in mind a lot of different things can happen, but waiting for confirmation is typically the best thing to do. And again, I'm not a perfect trader. I mean, I took a short on graph and got liquidated recently. I'll admit that. It's totally the way it goes. And that's just how trading is. So it's important to trade with some stop losses there. I technically had that position open, left for an hour, and came back, and it was totally gone. So it was my bad, of course. But on the same accord, you got to recognize that those things will happen. Taking losses is all part of being a trader. Okay? So the important thing is to learn from those mistakes and to continue to not make them, and to make sure that you are obviously on the right side of the tracks here when you take a trade. And right now, it's hard to identify which side is right. It's obviously overextension occurred, and the price is pulling back. It makes sense to me the price is going to continue to go lower based on what we've seen here so far. But again, waiting until today's candlestick closure might be appropriate. Yes, we might miss some opportunities, but it's important to wait for that confirmational sign, because we're definitely overextended to the downside, and a pullback would make sense. But we're obviously going to be able to reject off this level here at roughly 30,700. So this to me seems like a point of contention there. I don't think we're going to pass that. So I'm looking for a candlestick closure below 30,700 today to make it simple. If so, that'd be a consideration for a short opportunity down to that 29.9, 30,000 range. At that point, we got to wait and see if 30,000 will hold. If it continues to go lower, then obviously we can consider that. But again, that's why you set multiple profit targets on your trades. That's why we have those set up in our trades, essentially where you have multiple targets and the price action continues lower, right? So for example, a recent long that we took for Bitcoin, 30,500 was entry. We hit 2 targets, 30,800 and 31,000 even. And of course, the trade stayed open until it hit our trailing stop loss. Okay. So again, we took 80% profit and walked away. It was good. But that's how it should work, right? You shouldn't just put all your eggs in one basket and then just make one trade and hope for the best, never try to double down. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. Apologize, but I just like to look out for your best interest, because I get some people that come over to our community and they've gotten totally wrecked just because they made some novice mistakes. And I've done all those things before as well, and it's going to continue to happen, but the frequency should be less and your consistency should be more. All right, thanks again for joining me here. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks again for watching. If you haven't become a BingX member, highly recommend using my link so you can benefit from their trading competitions we're going to have soon, as well as, of course, some easy bonuses here just for registering with the link down below. A great exchange for the US members who were hit hard with KYC for KuCoin, BitGet, and of course Bybit previously here as well. So come on over to the light side. I hope you have a good rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.